Hey everybody, it's Mr. Qualls. Going to go over two things today. One of them is just to remind you of how the equation from yesterday's homework works, the area equals pi r squared, where if you were given a circle that had a radius of 3, what you would do here is to find the area of this, you would use 3.14 and then put 3 in for the radius, 3 squared for the radius. And then since you've got the square here, which means the exponent has to happen first, then you would take 3.14, 3 times 3, which is 9, and then you would multiply 3.14 times 9, and you would get the area equal to 28.26 units, whatever this was. So it was like cm, then this would be centimeters squared because it's an area. Okay. Now the other way that this works, or the other thing that we're concerned about with circles, is how the circumference works. Circumference is the distance around the circle, and it is also compared to the radius. If you want to compare a circumference of a circle by its radius, it is 2 pi r, which means if I gave you a radius of 3, just like this, same thing here, centimeters, 3 centimeters, and we wanted to find the circumference of this circle, what we would do is we would substitute the things that we know in. We know the 2, we know the pi, and then the number for pi, and then we know 3. Okay? So we can put these together in whatever order we want to. So I'm going to move the 3 up front, and I'm going to say 2 times 3, which is 6, and that's going to be 3.14. So 3.14 times 6 is 18. So the circumference, or the distance around the circle, is equal to 18.84. This is centimeters. It is a distance, so it is a centimeter, it is a distance. Like if we put this out, we stretched the circle out and made a line that was 18.84 centimeters long, and this goes around this circle, it is that long. So we only put centimeter here. This is actually square units, and there's 28.26 square centimeters in there. This is a distance, so it's not squared, it's just left as centimeters. Now the other way that the circumference works is that if we have the diameter instead, so instead of having the radius, we knew the diameter. Now the diameter is simply twice the radius. Here's one radius here, and here's another one, and these are exactly opposite each other, so it would be twice as long as this one, which means the diameter equals 6. Now the diameter is always twice the radius, and the radius is half of the diameter. So if I knew the diameter instead, what I would use, instead of using the radius, I would use the diameter. And circumference is pi times d, or diameter, and I know what pi is, 3.14, and I know that d is 6. So this ends up being 3.14 times 6, and we already know that that is 18.84 centimeters. Okay, so it's also the same number. It worked out the same whether we use the radius or the diameter. Just depends on what you know. So in the section that we're looking at now, what we're looking at is if you know the radius, you use the radius. If you know the diameter, you use the diameter to find the circumference. Well, what happens when you're looking for the circumference, or excuse me, what happens if you know the circumference, and what you're looking for is, instead of looking for the circumference, you're looking for the radius or the diameter, if you're looking for the diameter. And my pictures aren't perfect, but this one's the diameter, this one's the radius. If I was to tell you that the circumference of this circle was 78, oh, let's try a different one here. Let's go with, let's go with 78.5. If I said that this was 78.5 centimeters, this one also 78.5 centimeters. Now, the circumference formula for a circle that is using the radius is going to be c equals 2 pi r, just like we had before. And this one is going to be c equals pi times d. Okay? Now, if we're going to find the radius, what we need to do is know the circumference and the pi, the number for pi. And here we need to know circumference and the number for pi. Well, turns out we always know the number for pi. And we still don't know the radius over here. We do know 78.5 is going to be our number for circumference. Over here it's 78.5, and this is 2 times 3.14. Excuse me, I messed that one up. This one is going to be 78.5, or that equals pi times d. Well, the number for pi is 3.14, and there's d. So, what we can do here is we can simplify this side. 78.5, I've got my line down my middle here. 2 times that is going to be 6.28. 2 times 3.14 is 6.28. And that is still times the radius. Now these both look the same, but there's a 2 in here and not over here, just like there was a 2 up here, not over here. So something times 6.28 equals 78.5, which means if we divided this side by 6.28 and this side by 6.28, 6.28 over 6.28 is 1. So this is going to cancel out, and all I'm going to have over here is r. Over here, if I multiply something times 3.14 equals 78.5. So if I divide both of these by 3.14, 3.14 over 3.14 is 1, which means I've got 1d over here. So this side is now limited or simplified to d. So if I look at 78.5 divided by 3.14, that equals 25. On the other side over here, 78.5 divided by 6.28, that is 12.5. Now, what do we know about the radius compared to the diameter? Well, the diameter of a circle is twice the radius, and the radius is half of the diameter. So the diameter over here is actually 25 centimeters, and half of 25 is 12.5 centimeters. So if you have your circumference, and you need to know the diameter, you use this formula. Divide both sides by pi. Here, circumference equals 2 pi r, because we're looking for r. Multiply 2 by pi, which is 6.28. Divide both sides by 2.68, or excuse me, 6.28, and you get 12.5. Okay? This should help you with the problems that are posted with this video. I hope everybody is safe. I hope everyone's healthy. Hope no one is sick in any of your families. And keep doing smart things. Practice social distancing. Wash those hands.